Hello everyone and welcome back to Lake of Voices here on Touchy Elf. I am Abigail and today we're going to be picking up right where we left off. Where,
Behind.
Well, there's Nixi behind, Bellum? I think Bellum was his name. Behind Bellum stands another figure looming in the darkness. Seeing my face, Bellum grabs the hilt of his sword. He whips around, then staggers swiftly backwards. Several meters away, a crooked, twisted black figure hobbles its way toward us. Some kind of liquid drips off its head, curling around the edges of its face. It almost looks like it's crying. Bellum backs up until he's standing beside me. The figure continues its slow advance, head jerking from one angle to another. Probably abnormally, Antisepticeye style.
What on earth?
It's one of them.
Yes, Nixi that stumble across the bridges looking for opportunities.
The guide is standing next to us. I didn't even notice him approach.
The ones that can make it out of the water are generally referred to as prowlers.
I wonder if you named them.
I had no idea things like that were out here. Is that what Kika saw down the other path?
The guide says nothing, instead returning to the front of the party. Margaret watches him pass. Her frustration morphs into nervous optimism when something seems to come into her mind.
Well, Nixi aren't slowed down much by swords, but at least light keeps them away, right?
Margaret's hand grips her face tight, and desperation bleeds into her voice. I bite the inside of my lip.
Direct light will force it to return to the lake. However, it'll try to drag the light, or you, down with it before it goes.
Instinctively, I reach for the hilt of my sword, despite the fact that it would do little to protect me. The prowler is getting closer, jerking forward, stopping, then resuming its slow advance.
Okay, does anyone have a light we can leave here? That way it won't follow us.
Only matches.
Bellum spits. He's the one bringing up the rear, so he's the one most likely to be in danger if it keeps following. The guide, however, moves forward.
Don't forget it's there, don't let your guard down, and don't get left behind.
What? How am I supposed to keep walking with this thing at my heels? You said it wants to attack.
Don't give it the chance.
Bellum sputters in anger, and the guide similarly ignores him. I solidly grab hold of Bellum's upper arm.
Here, I'll lead you like this, and you can keep your focus solely on the prowler. Make sure it doesn't get too close.
Bellum eyes the guide with unresolved hostility, but allows himself to softly sigh in relief. He gazes at me with fondness.
At least there's someone I can count on.
Despite the fact I'm going against his advice, the guide says nothing more. It's clear now that he doesn't give a damn what we end up doing. Some part of me is glad for that. I want to help everyone make it through, and it would be worse to have to persuade the guide every time help was necessary.
Kika, thank you.
You're welcome. Bellum places a gentle hand on my shoulder. Yes, place hand over his. I feel Bellum stare as I reciprocate his touch, but just as quickly a smile replaces his shock. The moment is pleasant. A small balm against a large burn. I harden my expression and Bellum follows suit. He moves his free arm down. I fully link his arm with mine and now properly settle for... let's try that again. He moves his free arm down. I fully link his arm with mine and now properly settled look forward. Margaret is following the guide with some reluctance, turning back every so often to check on us. I wave my lantern to signal we're catching up. Margaret returns her head to the front and quickens her pace. With a tug on Bellum, we start to follow them. The four of us continue cautiously over the bridges. Only this time the wet, squishing footsteps of the prowler join the sound of our own. In spite of myself, I grip Bellum tighter. The prowler walks without a set pattern, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. It takes long steps, then short ones. At times it stops walking entirely. Does it hurt to be out of the water like this, or is it trying to be difficult to read? Suddenly the whispering in the lake grows louder. I steel myself, trying not to let it get to me. The most important thing in a situation like this is to remain calm. I can't lose my head. Then all at once I notice the guide and Margaret have come to a halt.
Bemele, they're stopping.
Belme slows down as I do, and as we near Margaret's back, she says with something akin to distress,
There's another one.
I tug on Bemel, and he understands. We draw up close to Margaret, ready to protect her if need be, but the guide holds out a hand.
Don't get any closer.
Just over his shoulder, I see another prowler stumbling towards us, white liquid dripping from its eyes. The guide's hand turns over in the air, palm up.
Give me a lantern. We'll throw it.
Margaret extends her own with a trembling hand when Bellum speaks instead, his back still turned.
If you have to take someone's, take mine.
Yes, an extra light won't do us much good when we're standing this close together.
Margaret takes Bellum's lantern from him, guarded relief displayed on her features.
Thank you.
She hands the lantern to the guide, whose hand grips it tightly, knuckles growing pale.
Stay here. I can't throw it too far. The light will blow out before it reaches the Nix.
He steps closer to the monster, his movement— Oh crud, don't do that, Gabe! His movement's light and confident. As he nears the prowler, starts to back away. Is it only the approaching light that's making it retreat, or are they afraid of him? The guide is far enough away from us that the fog is partially obscuring him, hiding his movements. The voices from the lake grow louder and louder. Water suddenly begins to splash across the lake in the distance and onto the edges of the bridge. They want him to mess up. Then suddenly the guy takes multiple long and fast strides forward, throws the lantern and jumps backward to regain the lost distance. There's a sharp hiss and then a deep splash, and the voices of the Nixi grow quieter, not silent, but quieter. A sigh escapes me, and the guide comes back to our group.
We should keep going before it comes back.
Oh yeah, you don't have a lantern anymore. I forgot. I glance at Bellum and realize he too is looking relieved at the guide before us. And then I see it. Oh crud! The first prowler, it's still there. It's right there. Pull him forward. I shift around, pulling Bellum behind me. The prowler lunges after him, barely missing Bellum, but striking my lantern instead. The fire goes out and the two of us are plunged into an unearthly darkness. Then there's a slick splash. I realize the Nix has retreated into the water. Somehow Bellum and I are still standing. We're still here.
Kika, thank you.
It's the right thing to do. I can't respond. Something cold, wet, and slimy has grabbed my ankle. Kick off. I kick my leg out as fast as I can, and the Nix's hold slips. It can't pull with the momentum I've gained against it. Margaret rushes to my side, her lantern hanging out towards the Nix. The light brushes its face. We see it for an instant, its eyes wide, and then it slides back into the smooth surface of the water. Bellum grabs Margaret and I both, helping us toward the center of the bridge and cussing under his breath.
I only looked away for 1 second.
It's fine, Bemele. We're all fine.
Are you actually alright?
Margaret cocked her head down, examining my ankle, but there's nothing but a wet smudge around my trousers.
I am fine.
I say that though I don't actually want to let go of Bellum. I need to go in order to relight our lantern and provide us actual safety. But I feel such a strong desire not to be alone in this moment. I shake my head roughly and let go of him, relighting the lantern as fast as I'm able.
Kika, thank you. Again. You saved my life. I won't let this happen again.
Yes. Yes. It would be good for all of us to pay more attention.
Margaret nods solemnly. Suddenly, it seems like we're all on the same side. It's not only Belme and I. She is with us in more than simply presence. The guide's voice, as cold as the monster's grasp, ends my train of thought.
We lost the lantern I threw. The Nix grabbed it after the light went out.
Margaret makes a noise. I glance over, wondering whether she's upset, but there's a small smile on her face instead.
It's better than them taking anything else.
A nervous laugh bobbles up out of me and just as quickly stops. Bellum chuckles in response, and our collective tension eases up, the adrenaline draining from our bodies.
We need to keep walking.
The guide starts down the bridge again and we join him. I try to clamp down on the relief, the ease that wants to flood my body. It's not over. The prowler is gone, but so is Bellum's lantern.
You can stay near me, Bemele, since your lantern is lost.
I appreciate it.
Margaret goes on ahead of us. Bellame stays by my side as I keep at the end of the line. Bellame stays by my side as I keep at the end of the line. Why is that sentence hard to read? The breath of release for Margaret and Bellame is quickly swallowed by the somber atmosphere of Sinulos, as well replaced by the gravity of the near-death experience. Never mind celebrating his survival, something like that shouldn't have happened in the first place. The memory of the prowlers reaching out towards us appears each time I close my eyes.
Why does it look like something's dripping down their faces?
The prowlers are on Margaret's mind too. Looking at her pained expression, it's as though the moment of relief never existed at all.
I'm not sure.
Me neither. Something's wrong with them, though. They live in water. Air shouldn't be good for the things, but they want to drown humans so much they're willing to drag themselves around on land. It's not right.
Agreed. Of course it isn't. They are monsters. They likely do not understand even the concept of right and wrong. That's interesting.
Well, I don't disagree that there's something very wrong about them. I truly hope that's the last we'll see of the Prowlers.
Something comes to her mind, causing Margaret to end her part of the conversation early.
Since you two have to share a light, wouldn't it be safer to be in the middle?
Margaret stops and waits for Bellum and I to reach her position.
That way, you'll catch the edges of my light and the guides, and it won't be so dangerous if Bemele loses his position momentarily.
That's a very kind offer, Margaret.
Bellamy's surprise is so apparent, I want to cover his face with my hands to stop him from insulting her. She merely smirks. I think Margaret may be surprised of herself, too. Bellarmé returns to his usual serate.
As thoughtful as it is, I, at least, am fine with bringing up the rear. I'm used to keeping watch for monsters, and since there are two of us, I can pay attention to the back while Kika focuses ahead. It's not my light, though, so I shouldn't be the one to decide what she should do with it.
Okay, so Margaret is a civilian and doesn't have any training with weapons or combat, so putting her in the back means that she doesn't have any defense against the Nixi, although the Nixi are invulnerable, and their only weakness is light. She is not used to being on the watch for monsters, although she has been camping by this side of the lake for a few days now, so she would be kind of familiar with the lake surface. However, Bellum has been to this lake before, although he went around the lake and not across the bridge before. So he has more experience with the lake than Margaret probably does. So I think that it is probably safer to keep Margaret, who's a civilian, inside the center, so she is more protected. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Margaret and Bellum turn to look at me in unison. Seems like it's my decision. Neither of them are wrong. As for me, my goal is to protect everyone. I can't very well do that with Margaret following behind us. Exactly. Excuse me. But being stuck in the middle of the group could also be dangerous depending on what circumstances we come across. Getting pincered by the enemy would be an almost assured death, no matter how experienced Bellum and I are. I just don't know what to expect from this bridge, and that makes things so much more difficult. The current format has worked so far.
So you're staying behind?
Yes.
Seems like it.
Yes, I think we'll be good here. But really, thank you. That was a very kind offer.
Well, all right.
She's concerned for our safety. Margaret respects her decision and trots ahead a bit to catch back up with the guide. He has paid no mind to the entire affair. That's a bad guide. What's on your mind?
So, I don't want to sound like a child, but how much longer until we arrive at the halfway point?
Margaret chuckles, reflecting the amusement I don't want to vocalize.
We still have some ways to go.
This is an hour-long game, and we've only played about 20 minutes of it, so here we go.
Damn.
I suppressed my laughter yet again at his pouting response. The gloom we've been under dissipates slightly, like lights flickering through the fog.
The first trial tends to be the most difficult. I believe we will only react better from this point on.
Good point.
I like the way you think.
Then a gleam enters Bellum's eyes and he grins.
I think Kika deserves a round of applause. Her quick reflexes are owed the utmost appreciation.
Yeah, apparently my character can die inside this game and we'll get a bad end. He leans softly into my shoulder, trying to get me to what?
It was indeed a sight. You're quite capable. Bemele was also a sight, but for very different reasons. The way he froze with his mouth all agape was a laugh in itself.
Bellum shakes a fist at Margaret in mock anger, then shoots me an affectionate look.
You should know, she and I are usually on equal footing.
The only reason you had footing at all is because she pulled you back.
Bellum laughs, self-consciously, scratching his head.
That's very true. You can always count on Kika.
I keep my eyes steadily ahead, unsure how I should respond. I am pleased, almost grateful, to hear what they think of me, but I don't know what I could say that wouldn't seem pathetic. Instead, I contributed the best way I can. I keep my focus on the path ahead of us. Without a response from me, the conversation quickly dies out. Still, it eases my heart to be on such friendly terms with my companions. After some time, I notice Margaret isn't keeping up with the guide as much as she was before. I realize it's because the guide has increased his pace. Margaret begins to jog in an effort to keep up with him, and Bellum and I do the same. Despite this, the guide keeps getting further away. As we go faster and faster, until suddenly we're full on sprinting across the sleek wooden boards. I would never be able to make this trip. Figures in the dark fog fly past us at a blur, and it occurs to me the branching paths of the bridge appear to be sinking. I try hard to swallow my rising panic. Day is coming. The guide shouts something, but it's drowned out by the frantic pounding of our footsteps. I'm trying to piece together what he said. Don't stop, turn? When he takes a masterfully sharp right down a different path, using his own momentum and the sleek wood to slide into the new direction with no loss of speed. Margaret must not have worked out the warning either, as she is completely caught off guard by the guide's change of course. She runs straight ahead, past the turn, and continues down the path we've been following up until now. She clumsily begins to halt her momentum down the wrong bridge. Then I come upon the fork. Turn. I make a hard turn, following the guide and leaving Margaret at the rear. Okay, she has a light. Bellum's footsteps stay as loud as they were before. He's made the turn, as close behind me as ever. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Margaret turn around and try to come back to us, only to have the bridge in front of her fall away. I slow down for a breath, feeling the impulse to turn back, but ignore it. There's no time. Margaret can make the jump, and then she'll rejoin us. I keep my eyes glued on the guide's back, ears perked for Margaret's footsteps approaching behind us, and then I hear it. A scream. I whip around, sliding to a stop. Margaret is sinking. The bridge she's on is sinking into the water. She's disappearing. She didn't jump.
What are you doing?
Margaret's head shoots up, her face drained of all color. She stumbles near the edge of the bridge, staring at the placid water of the lake. Even from a distance, I can see her shaking. I can't say it is from the bridge's descent or her own fear. She barely seems to remain standing. I swallow painfully. Margaret bends and tries to jump. She curves in a small arc, arching more height than she should, and lands directly in the lake with a muted splash. Bellum starts beside me, but I grab his hand and pull. We start running again, leaving Margaret flailing in the water behind us. We don't need to watch this. We both know exactly what will happen to her now. Margaret's anguished cries pierce the night. Then the screaming stops. I think this is a good place to end this video. So thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay in touch. And don't go swimming in any of the lakes for me, please. Thank you. Bye!